All right, given the evening I'm having, what I'm about to talk about is extremely ironic. All right, so you wouldn't jump off a building expecting to fly. You wouldn't try to run down a car. But we ask our brains to do equally unreasonable things all the time without realizing it, because we don't understand how our minds and our brains actually work. Everything about the brain only makes sense in terms of evolution. The green part down there, that's lizard brain. The part in between, squirrel brain. And then a nice big human sandwich on top. And what you have to understand is that when you're under stress, the old stuff wins. And you get yourself into this vicious cycle where stress hormones come into your body and make you want to run away from the tiger that no longer threatens us. And it affects your immune system, and it affects your ability to focus. It affects your ability to get your job done. So when we're born, we have a pretty much blank neural net, and we don't have our own personality yet. We don't have a sense of self as separate from our mother, separate from the world. And we spend the first few years of our lives developing our neural networks and learning that we are, in fact, an individual, and that we have our own personality, and that we're not just a part of the world. Which is ironic, because then people spend years learning the opposite. So just how limited is this neural network? They ran an experiment at Stanford where they took students and they gave them a challenge. They said, okay, go in this room and memorize a number, and go to that room and write it down. And they gave one group of students a 2-digit number and the other group of students a 7-digit number. And the real experiment was that halfway down the hall, someone interrupted them and asked them, would you like a snack? Would you like fruit salad or yummy cake? And the ones with the 7-digit number were twice as likely to pick the yummy cake. So it's pretty damn easy to override your upper cortex. Now, if you don't learn these things and understand these things, there's a lot of material to cover in 5 minutes. You're going to be in trouble, because the universe is infinite, right? All the stuff that nobody knows, and the amount of human knowledge that is known is gigantic. It is far beyond the capability of any human to accumulate it anymore, to the extent where you really don't understand what it is you don't know. And it gets worse, because it turns out that a lot of the stuff we do know is total bullshit. And that's the dangerous stuff, right? The dangerous stuff is thinking you can walk on water when you can't. So, basic maintenance. The biggest threat to you, besides stress and bad information, is stroke. And not the obvious kind of stroke. I'm talking about little micro strokes that you don't notice. It turns out that you can be slowly dying of mini strokes, and we perceive it as being old aging, but it's actually that little parts of your brain are being cut off without you noticing. Information overload is the other big problem that we face, and it gets worse every day. And it turns out that when you're taking in all this information, you feel like you're accomplishing something, like you're learning something, and therefore it's okay. And it turns out it's really not okay, because the more of this information you take in, the less you are yourself, the less your own personality survives. So what do we do about all this? We go on an information diet, we learn how to exercise our mind, and we learn to do scheduled maintenance. So the information diet that I recommend, and I myself went through this spring when I felt like I just couldn't take it anymore. I cut myself off from everything for several weeks. No Twitter, no email, nothing. People thought I had died. I highly recommend it. If it doesn't feel extreme to you, whatever you choose to do, it's not enough. Second thing is you need to learn how to breathe. You need to learn how to just stop and tell your brain to shut the hell up. Turns out that meditation is not all seeking nirvana, not all... I mean, these guys don't look like the kind of monks you would expect, do they? So you have to make a choice. You can choose that you can either keep consuming this flood of information that overwhelms your personality, overwhelms your ability to do what it is that you want to be doing, or you can step back from it and deliberately unplug. I'm going to recommend one simple technique that I know has helped a lot of people. It's called the Pomodoro technique because of this kind of timer, and that's cut yourself off from everything except for the one thing you're going to work on for 30 minutes, set a timer, and focus for 30 minutes. It'll change your life in a very short amount of time. All right, so if you only remember 3 things from this, take your aspirin. That daily regimen that they recommend for your heart, it does just as much for your brain in preventing strokes. And I'm off my slides now. So be mindful, be intentional, and be present. If you find yourself drifting away when you're in a conversation, when you're in a meeting, you're doing a disservice to yourself and to the people with you. Best thing you can do is be in the moment. I'm going to have a lot of material on my blog to back this stuff up. Thank you.